It's ranking season. Our 2021 quarterback rankings coming at you. Welcome back, friends. Another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel, live, ready to give you guys a topic that, as we get into July, is becoming very prevalent in the fantasy football space, the 2021 quarterback rankings. The best thing about rankings is they're unique to every individual. So as bad as Kevin's are, they're his rankings, right? So we can't hate too much. We got to listen to his. We got to listen and see what he says, because obviously I have no idea where he's going to go. But Kev, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm surprised you actually invited me on, because I make you look so bad all the time that I know that you don't like to appear with me all the time about my football knowledge. So I'm just glad to be here.
Where's the eject button? But no, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna talk about our rankings a little bit, keep it nice and short and sweet, so you guys can digest this content and adjust your rankings accordingly. So without further ado, let's jump into your ranks, Kevin. Let's just take a look at the top 10 that you have, and you have Dak Prescott at 1, which I think is. Are you a Cowboys fan? I forget. Are you just showing your homerism right away?
I am a Cowboys fan, but let me be clear to everybody out there that you can trust me. I'm not a homerist. Like I'm not one of those Cowboy fans that say we're going to win the Super Bowl every year. I'm not one of those Cowboy fans. I'm a pragmatic Cowboys fan. This is based on pure talent, situation, what he has around him, and in last year's too. Like through 4 weeks last year, Dak was the QB1. So he has set this precedent. Now I know that he had this unheard amount of volume. I mean, he was throwing the ball when we talked about last year 34 times a game, but I still think it's going to be like that this year. Their defense did not improve. Trust me, as a Dallas fan, our defense is bad. We're going to be a lot of game scripts where it's going to be a lot of passing in the second half of the game, trying to come back. We have what will be the dynasty wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb, on our team. We have Amari Cooper. We have Michael Gallup. We have Blake Jarwin's going to be back. We have Zeke. We have Tony Pollard. Like, we're going to have a high dynamic offense that's going to be run through Dak, not Zeke. Zeke's going to have a good year, but Dak's going to be the guy. So again, the stats that I love, and all my Giants fans out there, he had 9 touchdown passes last year to Daniel Jones 11, and Daniel Jones played in 14 games and Dak played in 4. So, and then he got injured in the 5th game. So he definitely, if he already was almost better than Daniel Jones was last year, and he played 4 games. But to the point is, I think that he can be the redraft QB1 based on the talent, based on the situation, game scripts, based on everything around him. I don't think it's a stretch.
I don't know. I mean, he definitely was on a historic stretch last year. He definitely looked like he would be the QB1 if he finished it out. Do you think there's any sign of regression, though? Are you concerned?
Well, in 2019, he threw for almost 5,000 yards and had 30 touchdowns. So I think that he was already still on that same pace where he was going to be going here. And when he stayed healthy, he's been a top 10 quarterback. So I don't like to use the word regression, because he's had the same offensive coordinator now 2 years in a row. Kellen Moore's being there. They like to get him more involved. He does have a rushing upside that we like to see. Now, with his ankle, we'll have to wait and see how that looks. I remember how it looked when I saw it. I almost threw up. But hopefully it's everything that we've seen is healed. They do like to run a lot of read option plays in the red zone. We've seen that with Dak. He has that ability to score rushing touchdowns too. So I think he has a rushing upside that you kind of need from a top 5 quarterback now in fantasy. So from everything, the perspective, I don't think it's regression. I think it's going to be what he was going to do last year. Just to a certain extent, he'll stay healthy, hopefully, and he'll have that. But I absolutely love Dak. Like, Dak's my guy, and I think that people are sleeping on him right now, especially you with your rankings that you got going on.
Oh, we can take a look at my rankings, and they're obviously better color-coded, first of all. I like this color better than your gray. But you know what I got to talk about? I got to talk about Mr. Unlimited, because he's my #1 quarterback on this list. And for good reason. And I had to bring my unlimited glasses to read you just what I'm about to spit at you, Kev. So just strap yourself in. We're going to go for a ride. So let's start off. Let's talk about Russell Wilson as a QB1. Didn't seem like a hot take the first 8 weeks of the season last year. In those 7 games, because he had a bye, he put up 30.29 points per game, which was the #1 quarterback. So for half the season, he was the #1 quarterback. And through the first 9 weeks, he was still QB3. Now, people remember the rest of the season, he had a putrid 17.5 points per game, which was 12th position. So he showed that he could be for the first half, and people are like, hey, he always tails off. This is what he does. And last year was the examples he threw, reason he tailed off. He threw nearly 5 fewer attempts per game for fewer than 2 yards per throw. He went from 3.5 touchdowns per game to 1.5. The deterioration of the pass protection around him with some injuries on the offensive line were a problem. And then DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett both struggled. They both dropped to wide receiver 19 and 23, respectively, the second half of the season. But we got to talk about that offensive line. And Russell Wilson aired these problems about the team and expressed the frustrations about getting hit so much. According to PFF, Wilson's had a bottom 3 pass blocking offensive line 5 times in 9 seasons. So it's hard to obviously succeed. He scrambles and makes them look great, but that's a problem. And he finally got tired of it and expressed that. Another reason that I think part of his play deteriorated was the teams that played against Seattle deployed the highest 2 safety coverage versus any team in the NFL. Seattle likes to go deep a lot. So most of those teams were just playing their 2 high safeties back and taking away the deep ball, and Seattle was not adjusting and changing up their passing game. So I think that was the reason the increase of interceptions led to the more of the running the ball, which Pete Carroll basically came out and said they made adjustments to their game plan based off all the turnovers that were taking place. Again, if you change your passing game, maybe it doesn't happen. They continue to let Russ cook. So let's talk about why we're excited for Russell Wilson as a QB1 this season. Well, we talked about with Dak Prescott. You always got to talk about the rushing upside, right? Over the last 3 seasons, Wilson ranks 5th in terms of rushing yards amongst quarterbacks and 6th in attempts. He's also averaging 5.5 attempts per game. So the rushing floor is definitely up there with the top quarterbacks in terms of rushing. Then let's take a look at the passing stats for the full 2021 season. He did post career highs in completions, yards, touchdown passes, completion percentage, and average passing yards. And he also finished in the top 6 among quarterbacks in fantasy points per game in 4 of the past 6 years. So he already has that great floor that we know about. Then let's talk about a factor, I think, why it might take him to QB1 for the entire season. And that starts with the new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who was hired from the Rams. And if he's able to bring some of that Sean McVay skill into the quarterback position in that passing game, I think it could go a long way. Now, you look at the Rams, they ranked in the top 10 in passing yards 3 of his 4 years in LA. Now, what he brings is a quick passing offense. You have Russell Wilson, who had the 5th longest time to throw at under 3 seconds last year. In Waldron's scheme, this basically is going to make it these quick throws, should be able to have receivers get open a lot more quickly. And the offensive line's not going to have to hold up pass protection nearly as long as it's had to in the past, which means less QB hits and less sacks on Russell Wilson. And if you obviously give Wilson time, if he's not pressured, he can ball out. He was 5th in player profile and clean pocket completion percentage and remains the best play action quarterback in the game. That offensive line that we mentioned added Gabe Jackson, who's an upper tier guard. He's going to take over the right guard, which allows Damian Lewis to shift over to the left side with Dwayne Brown, and playing alongside Dwayne Brown should play better. And I would expect that to increase the offensive line, just efficiency in general. Then you add in Dwayne Eskridge in the draft, who is just a speed demon, could run a lot of slants. That's right in his wheelhouse in this new scheme. And then tight end Gerald Everett, who's been talked about as a huge tight end sleeper. These passing weapons added there is just going to be insane for Russell Wilson to be able to ball out. I think everything's pointing for him to be the QB1. I think you've seen it for half a season. Why can this not extend to a full season when he has the trust of a coaching staff, when he's able to change to the quick passing scheme and not just taking deep shots? He's got receivers that do great after the catch. Metcalf's one of the best yak receivers. Dwayne Eskridge is a slant god. I can't see why it can't be him.
Okay, let me tell you why you're wrong in a lot of different aspects. But first, I think the biggest thing I'm worried about with Russ is basically the division he plays in, because he's going to be playing against 3 tough defenses 2 games out of the year each team. So he's got 6 games against probably top 15 defenses. When you look at 49ers coming back, they're going to be much better. And if they stay healthy, Bosa, those guys there. Cardinals, even surprisingly, they ranked in the top 15 last year, and their defense got better as the year went. And you'll see that. I think they were 10th in the league last year, according to PFF. based on defensive passing defense. So they got to play them. And then obviously, and the Rams own Russell Wilson. I don't know if you've seen what he's done to him at the game splits against them. So I think the Rams have shown how to stop him. And again, I like Russell. So don't get me wrong. Like, I think Russell is a great quarterback. It's just when he puts up 12 points in my championship game, I get very mad when I'm playing with Russell Wilson as my fantasy quarterback. And then I also I would temper my expectations on what they're going to do offensively. Like, they're going to run the ball. We know that already. But at the same time, like, if you're using that, he came from the Rams. So did Zach Taylor from the Bengals. He came from the Rams too. And we've seen that offensive production, what he's done in Cincinnati. I just want to temper it. Being number one is bold, and I appreciate your boldness. I think that Dak is less risky pick as my number one based on what they're going to try to do to them. We know the Cowboys will run through Dak. We've consistently seen them go away from Russell. Whether that's the right decision or not, like, I agree that they should be able to let Russ cook, as we talk about, but they won't. They won't let him cook, David. So they take it away from him. And so I think that's what I'm hesitant. It's not the talent of Russell. It's the things around him that make me worried.
Well, yeah, they have some good defenses in the division, but that's never shown to be a huge detriment to Russ outside of the Rams, which for some reason they have some really tight contested games, and they always have low scoring games. I'm not too worried about that. Thing that also I like him better than Dak is he's not coming off a major injury, and you never know how quarterbacks react coming off a major injury. We've seen Derek Carr, we've seen Carson Wentz, we've seen these guys that get these one major leg injuries and then they get skittish in the pocket. They're afraid to take off and run, and they be changed the whole way they used to play before the injury. We haven't seen Dak since this. This is big an injury you can probably have the way his leg looked. So I don't think we can say, hey, this is what we saw last year, this is what we can expect this year, because he could be a whole different mindset type of quarterback too, which your mind being changed and affected can affect everything around you. So that, I feel like Russell Wilson's already established what his floor is, which is a top 6, 7, 8 quarterback at the very least. But when you bring in a new passing coordinator as a quick passing game coordinator, look what that did for Jared Goff. It resurrected his career, for the short time when he was with the Rams. I think that if Russell Wilson takes what's given to him and has this quick passing game and isn't getting hit, which is the biggest problem, is he's been the most hit quarterback over the last 3 years. Like, him getting the ball out and being able to have defenses come in so he can eventually take those deep ball shots, which he's arguably the best in the league at. This is the year it stays the whole season, Kev. I'm telling you. Gotta buy it.
Well, let's be clear. Like, Dak has shown that he's consistently a top 8 quarterback too. Like, let's not throw him under the bus there with that whole slide comment that you just made. Like, Dak is still a top 8 quarterback in the league when he's healthy. And I get the health thing. He's fine. He's young. He'll bounce back. He's not like me.
What do you go by, Dad Bod Kev?
Yeah, Dad Bod Kev. Here we go. I'm good. Hey, I signed up for a Spartan race yesterday. All right, I am. I'm heading that way. But all right, let's look at my list, and you tell me what else stands out to you about my top 10 here.
I noticed there's somebody that's not on your list that I think the fantasy community is going to throw a riot over, and that's Jalen Hurts. Where is the Eagles? Is it just because he's in your division you don't want to talk about him? Why is Jalen Hurts not there?
No, I just like Chris Sims, so he left him off his top 40. I figured I would just do it the same. I know. What I would say is I have some reservations about Hurts, and I've had it since he's played in college. And the biggest thing is his accuracy. He still hasn't thrown for more than 56% of his passes in his game, in his season. Even last year, he didn't do that. Now, I understand the rushing upside is there, but even in the games that he played, his 3 starts, he had 9 sacks, 4 turnovers. So he wasn't somebody that consistently showed that he could not turn over the ball, throw the ball with accuracy. I don't trust that offensive line in Philadelphia. I don't really trust the weapons. I love Devonta Smith, but he's 105 pounds. Jalen Reagor's never been my guy. Travis Fulgham's never really been my guy. I feel like that we're setting him up based on his rushing upside, which is fine, but quarterbacks still need to throw the ball. Like, he's still going to have to put himself in position to be an accurate quarterback, be able to hit his targets. I don't know if the weapons around him, I don't like what they built around him, even with what they had with Wentz. Like, that's going to be a rebuild for a couple years. And will they give him time to develop? I don't know. And if we're talking about redraft, I'm more concerned with him. If this was Dynasty, I don't mind taking a shot on him. But in redraft, when I'm trying to win and win now, based on his ADP, it's way too high for me, and I don't have him in my top 10.
Yeah, I could see it. I have him, ranked at 7, but
That's high.
I'm not.
That's high, David.
Yeah, I'm not like sitting here going to defend. The rushing floor is why everybody's been speaking Jalen Hurts as a top 5 quarterback, but that can only take you so far. Obviously, I know Lamar Jackson won an MVP, but we all don't argue that he's a much better runner than Jalen Hurts is.
And
much
passer.
more. Yeah, and a passer. So like
Lamar's not bad at passing. Like I think he gets a bad rap, but he's much better and much more accurate than Hurts was ever.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a Jalen Hurts truther. I'm not going to sit here. Again, the rushing upside floor is why he's in my top 10 for right now. But I will bring up your rankings again because we have similar as far as the top 6 are concerned. They're just different orders. You have Dak at 1, and I have Russell Wilson at 1. We both have Mahomes at 2, and then Lamar Jackson's my 3rd. He's your 5th. You have Kyler Murray up at 3. I have Kyler Murray at 4. So basically the top 6, one way, shape, or form. The big, I think, difference, you also have Josh Allen at 4, and I have him at 6. So I just wanted to address that real quick. But one of the guys we both actually have the same on both lists, I'll show you guys the nicer list again. That's Ryan Tannehill at 8. And I wanted to talk about Ryan Tannehill because he's quietly, and I know now he's getting talked about a lot more because he has Julio Jones in the passing game. But even before that, there's a graphic that I'm going to show you guys here about Ryan Tannehill. Since he's joined the Titans, he's led the NFL in passer rating, led the NFL in yards per attempt, led the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives, top 3 in touchdown percentage per pass, top 3 in completion percentage. He also has an AFC Championship game appearance and an AFC South Championship. The last 2 don't really matter for fantasy, but it just shows how much of a dominance he's had at quarterback since he's taken over for the Titans. Another stat for you guys is that Tannehill was the number 3 quarterback in all of 2020, or I'm sorry, all of 2019 once he took over from Marcus Mariota. So obviously he didn't start the year Marcus Mariota did. From then on, if you basically have his fantasy points from that week for the rest of the season, he was the QB3. Then you look at last year, he would have been QB2 if he had A.J. Brown for every game based off his points per game with A.J. Brown in the lineup. So he's a guy that's been a consistent top 3 quarterback when he has A.J. Brown in the lineup and when he's been playing, which isn't – so basically those 2 things factoring in aren't huge problems for him to be able to have for the 2021 season. Then you factor in that you have Julio Jones joining the fold, which is absolutely nuts. And I think people talk about Derrick Henry, 30-plus carries a game. There's not enough passing volume for him. But the fact is Derrick Henry definitely gets a lot of carries, but he's not getting more than he got the last 2 years. If anything, it's going to start going down some because they need to conserve him for not just the 17-game season, but also they plan to make a deep playoff run, and you can't wear him down early in the season. So I would expect Ryan Tannehill, especially early on in the year, and then in those middle months, kind of when Derrick Henry starts struggling, as he always does before he takes off at the end of the year, that Tannehill's going to be a firm top 10 quarterback. And we both have him at 8. I would not be shocked to see him a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I think rushing, he actually does have a sneaky rushing upside too. Like he does score rushing touchdowns. I like him. And where is ADP going? He's still a value. Like I don't think the Julio news have shot him up. He's going behind Jalen Hurts in redraft. I'm going Tannehill. Like I think that's a safer floor, right? And I understand the ceiling part, but I'm more comfortable with what Tannehill's been able to do, and based on his ADP, and I think 8 might be low for us. Like you said, I think he could be in there, and they're just going to move the ball around. I think they're going to get Darrington Evans, young kid from Appalachian State, the running back. He was injured last year. He had COVID. I think they're going to get him more involved in the passing game. And so you're going to see more targets that way to their running backs, which they haven't really done, which will limit Henry a little bit, but that's okay because I don't have Henry anywhere. And that'll help Tannehill because that's going to help him develop, and we're going to see some more touchdowns there. So I like it. I like Tannehill. I know I don't want to overreact to get him in the top 5 yet, but he has the system and the place around him.
Do you know how many finger roll touchdowns he had last year?
I do not know how many finger roll touchdowns he had. Wait, was it let me guess, 6?
7.
7. Okay.
Yeah. So over or under 6.5 of his patented rushing finger roll touchdowns. What do you have him at
for this year?
Yeah,
I probably would say under. It's close though. I think that's a pretty fair, like 5 or 6.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about. Let's look at the list again. Let's talk about one more player each here. Going back to your list, and there's a guy that you have here that I think needs to be talked about because I was tempted to. It was hard to keep him outside my top 10, and he might make it back in by the time the season actually rolls around. Why don't you talk about him some?
Yeah, mine is Matthew Stafford, who I have at 10. And it's tough because, again, I'm not one of those guys that likes to overreact to news. And I don't like to oh, well, now he's got to be my top 5 based on a workout video that he's working out with no shirt on. But in that offense with McVay, with Woods and Cup, Higbee being there, Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, it would seem like that we should see him in the top 10. I hesitate to leave him say that he's going to be above 8 because he doesn't have the rushing upside that you like to see that you really need from those quarterbacks. But with that platform where he's at, I will say that I think he needs to get to 30 touchdowns. If he can get to around 30 to 32 passing touchdowns in that offense, which I think they will rely on Akers and Henderson a little bit. So that kind of worries me. But with the next game that he has, the extra game that they're going to have, I can see him getting to that 30 to 32 touchdown range. If he does that, he's going to be in the top 10. I was big on him last year, and he burned the hell out of me. So I am a little hesitant, but everything's around him, right? And McVay, everything at camp. I hate coach talk, but he's been talking about he's the next Joe Montana. They're going to get him involved. They're going to use him. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get the game scripts for him. And I love Robert Woods. He's one of the best deep ball throwers, accuracy wise in the NFL. He was even last year with Marvin Jones and Golladay being out, but Marvin Jones being there. Now you place Marvin Jones with Robert Woods. You're gonna see a talent upgrade for Stafford, and I really think that he's gonna fall in that top 10, and that's why I have him there. But you had him right out, so I'm interested to see why you left him out of there.
I have him at 11, and to be honest,
that's still out, David.
To be honest, he might replace the guy that I'm going to talk about at 10 next, who on my list is Justin Herbert. Not just because he's in my division as a Chiefs fan, but people are like, how can you have Justin Herbert at 10 already? I think most people already have him creeping into that top 5 too. I've seen, Dynasty is a whole separate discussion. This is obviously more focused in redraft right now, talking for the 2021 season, but people forget. So Kev, let me read you this. So he broke the rookie record for passing touchdowns, with 31 last year. He also threw 595 passes, which was the 4th most in the league. Do you know what he finished with last year as far as what his QB finish was?
No, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm getting old.
He was QB 9. So he was QB 9 with the rookie record in passing touchdowns and 4th in the league in passing attempts. So that's already pretty much, I can't imagine much more of a ceiling than finishing as a rookie record passing touchdowns with the 4th most passing attempts. It's a pretty high ceiling already. Now you bring in a defensive-minded head coach. You have a healthy defense that should hopefully limit the points and limit the amount of possessions you have to go and keep up with the other team. I expect his pass attempts to dip in 2021, which is going to hurt his appeal. The Chargers did increase the talent on the offensive line, which is great, but they also replaced Hunter Henry with Jared Cook. And I don't know about you, Kev. I'm not a Jared Cook guy. I think he's just a guy at this point.
Well, he's been just a guy for a while.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's a downgrade. Yeah. Eckler in the passing game is 100% going to help. And we've seen that he's going to obviously, it'll obviously help the passing game with him there and being an outlet. But with Eckler also being healthy, they're going to run the ball a lot more than they did last year. Their running game was absolutely awful with Eckler hurt. So I expect with Eckler healthy that he's going to be involved a lot more in the running game. They're obviously going to make sure that they're getting involved in the running attack. So I think at the end of the day, QB 9 last year with everything that kind of went right for him, they were down a lot of games. He had to throw a bunch, rookie touchdown record. I don't see him going much higher than he finished last year. I'd have him at 10. When we finish this video, I might move him down to 11 and put Stafford at 10 because that was how hard it was for me. I just don't see the appeal of him taking the next leap. And then you also have the sophomore slump, which I didn't mention, but seems to be a real thing as far as you seeing guys like Baker Mayfield and a bunch of other quarterbacks that you see in their second year when they have more film on them, when they see how they play. That's a real thing. And a lot of these quarterbacks definitely can have an adjusting period in their sophomore year. So that would factor the reason is even if he made it through that adjustment period. Let's say he struggled through 6 weeks and then finished the last 11 weeks like his normal self. Those first 6 weeks where he's really bad, that's going to make sure he doesn't finish as a top 5 quarterback most likely. So I just don't see it for him this year.
Yeah, no, I think where he's at 9 is a pretty like 9, 10 in that range. He's getting drafted as QB6 in redraft right now, which I think is a redraft trap. I think, and if you looked at like if you go to 4for4, it shows you like where websites are he's getting drafted at. So CBS and ESPN are his top. So those are kind of like I don't want to say casual fantasy players, but they see last year what he did and say, oh, of course he's going to be there. So I think that's a trap. I think that Justin Herbert could be a trap this year because when you look at the rankings, who's going after him, guys like Russell Wilson's going after him, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Tannehill, Matthew Stafford. Like, I think some of those guys are a little safer than Herbert because with the new coaching staff, like you mentioned, everything that we're kind of been going over, it could be a trap. It could be that one trap in redraft. Like, wow, I reached on him instead of getting a positional player I could have. Because realistically, where his ADP's at, you're really probably giving up a top wide receiver in that area. And depending on how your league sets up, you might want to just wait. I'm always waiting on quarterbacks anyway in redraft. And I just don't know if I want to reach up for Herbert with all those kind of question marks that you came up with. But with that said, he's probably going to throw 40 touchdowns and make us look dumb. But that's kind of I understand where you came from there.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have some differences in our rankings, but I think we have similar processes on our thoughts. And we were curious to hear what you guys think. What do you think about our rankings? Are we crazy for who we have at number 1? What do you guys think as far as how our top 10 is shaping out? We'd like to hear from you. If you can comment in the comment section below, that would be awesome. Let us know your thoughts. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please make sure you're subscribed. It's I don't know about you guys, but when I wake up in the morning and I see that extra subscription added on there, we go up a number, we go up a couple numbers, makes my morning, it makes my day, it makes Kevin's year. So we appreciate every sub and let us know what you want to see next because we love making these videos for you guys and helping you win your league. So for @theboys_22, I'm DMendy02. We'll catch you guys in